She walked in barefoot, dust clinging to her skin, and without a word, made me kneel. What began as a simple gesture became something far deeper, intimate, electric, unforgettable. Welcome to Goddess Foot Confessions. Let's uncover what really happened. That evening, the air outside still carried the fading heat of a long summer day. But inside, the coolness settled gently around us. She came through the door quietly, her footsteps light but uneven, as if the weight of the walk had seeped into her every step. The moment she slipped off her shoes, I noticed it, the faint dust clinging stubbornly to the curves of her bare feet, the soft scratches along her heels, and the delicate pads of her toes. Her skin was warm where it pressed against the floorboards, but streaked with the faintest traces of earth and wear. I couldn't look away. There was something vulnerable about those tired feet, the kind of wear that spoke of miles traveled, not just in distance, but in quiet endurance. She didn't say a word as she settled onto the couch, stretching her legs out slowly, allowing her feet to rest lightly on the polished wood. The soft glow of the lamp painted her skin with golden light, making the slight sheen of sweat along her arches gleam like a secret. I sat frozen for a moment, my breath catching unexpectedly, the air thick with something unspoken. She glanced my way briefly, her eyes calm but searching, and I felt that subtle pull, a silent invitation or maybe a challenge, to come closer. The room seemed to shrink around us, the quiet hum of the evening winding down as I wrestled with the urge growing inside me. Her feet were marked by the day's journey, yet they held an effortless grace that drew me in. Something stirred beneath my skin, an ache I couldn't quite name. She flexed her toes slowly, and I caught the curve of her arch in the flickering light. The silence between us grew heavier, laden with unspoken questions and possibilities. Without thinking, I shifted forward, drawn, compelled, ready to discover what lay beneath the surface of those dusty feet. She didn't rush to pull her feet away, and I noticed the faint tremor in her calf as she settled deeper into the couch. Her bare soles pressed softly against the hardwood floor, the dust smudging delicate patterns that only made them more alive to my eyes. The room felt still, almost fragile, as if the very air was holding its breath. Her gaze met mine again, quieter this time, yet more certain. There was a softness there, an unspoken invitation hidden beneath the calm surface. I wasn't sure if she wanted me to reach out or if she was simply seeking comfort in the quiet, but my fingers itched to bridge that distance. Slowly, she lifted one foot, letting it hover just above my lap. The skin was slightly rougher than I'd expected, worn from the day's journey, but beneath there was a gentle vulnerability that made my heart tighten. My hand trembled as I reached toward her, the warmth radiating from her skin stronger than I'd imagined. The faint scent of earth and jasmine lingered in the air around her feet, an intoxicating mix that pulled me closer without permission. I caught myself staring at the arch, mesmerized by the way the soft light traced its curve. For a moment, we simply held that space, foot suspended, hand hovering, neither of us breaking the fragile silence. Then, as if sensing my hesitation, she shifted slightly, letting her toes flex lightly, the motion sending an unexpected flutter through my chest. I wanted to ask if this was okay, but words felt unnecessary. The quiet connection between us spoke volumes. Her barefoot finally settled gently on my thigh, the light pressure a whisper against my skin. That subtle touch, accidental or deliberate, sent a shiver racing through me. The silence between us grew thicker, charged with something neither of us dared name yet. I leaned in slightly, heart pounding, ready to cross whatever line she was silently drawing. Our eyes locked, and the world seemed to quiet around us, the only sound the faint, rhythmic beating of my own heart. Her gaze was steady, calm but probing, like she was searching for something unspoken within me. That brief glance held 1,000 words we neither said aloud, yet everything was understood in the way her eyelashes caught the soft lamplight, casting delicate shadows on her cheeks. Her foot remained resting lightly on my thigh, the warmth seeping through my jeans like a secret invitation. I couldn't stop myself from tracing slow circles on the smooth skin just above her heel, careful not to disturb the fragile tension hanging between us. Each brush of my fingers sent subtle tremors through her, a silent dance of connection neither of us dared to name yet. The faint scent of jasmine mingled with a lingering dust, grounding the moment in both reality and something almost dreamlike. My breath caught as her toes flexed slowly, as if testing the space between us, and the curve of her arch seemed to beckon me closer, delicate, vulnerable, yet somehow undeniably confident. The soft hum of the evening filtered in through the cracked window, the muted sound of distant rain tapping gently against the glass. It added a rhythm to the stillness, a backdrop to the silent tension that filled the room. I swallowed hard, feeling a sudden heat rise in my chest. There was an electric weight to her touch, light but full of meaning. The way her foot pressed against me wasn't just a physical sensation. It was a statement, a subtle claim in the quiet space we now shared. Time seemed to fold in on itself as I leaned closer, drawn by the magnetic pull of that first glance, caught somewhere between hesitation and something deeper, more urgent. The silence grew thicker, and I realized I was no longer just observing. I was part of the moment, intertwined in the delicate web we were silently weaving. I froze, caught between the urge to reach out and the whisper of doubt swirling inside me. The room's soft shadows seemed to press closer, as if waiting for my next move. Her foot rested lightly on my thigh, warm and real, but the space between us felt charged with invisible threads pulling me in both directions, toward connection and away from the unknown. My fingers twitched, yearning to touch, but the weight of hesitation held me back. What did she want? Was this a quiet test, a subtle invitation, or simply a moment of shared tiredness after a long walk? Her gaze never wavered, steady and calm, as if she knew what I was feeling without saying a word. The faint scent of jasmine wrapped around us like a soft cloak, mingling with the earthiness clinging to her skin. My breath hitched when her toes flexed slightly, just enough to brush against the fabric of my jeans. The movement was deliberate or accidental. I couldn't tell, but it sent a shiver through me I wasn't prepared for. The silence between us stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the quiet sounds of the room. The ticking clock, the distant rain tapping the window, and the subtle rustle as she shifted her weight. It was in this suspended moment that I realized the tension wasn't just about her feet. It was about the closeness we shared, the fragile intimacy hanging in the balance. Slowly, cautiously, I moved my hand closer, fingertips barely grazing her ankle. She didn't pull away. Instead, her foot pressed a little firmer against my thigh, anchoring me in the moment. It was as if she was telling me, "It's okay. I can trust you." That small reassurance was all I needed. My hand finally settled on her skin, tentative but filled with a growing warmth. Something had shifted between us, quiet, delicate, and impossible to ignore. The moment my fingers made contact with her skin, a subtle warmth spread through me, unexpected and electric. Her ankle was slightly rough from the walk, the faintest hint of grit beneath my fingertips. Yet beneath that texture was softness, delicate and real. I traced slow, tentative circles, careful not to rush, wanting to honor the quiet trust growing between us. Her foot shifted gently in response, the slight movement sending a ripple of awareness down my arm. The curve of her heel caught the light, smooth and inviting, and I found myself mesmerized by the way the shadows played across the delicate tendons and soft skin. The contrast of rough and tender, dirt and warmth, was a silent story of strength and vulnerability. She didn't pull away. Instead, she let her foot rest heavier against me, almost like an unspoken permission. My breath hitched as her toes flexed once more, curling and releasing slowly, a quiet rhythm that matched the steady beat pounding in my chest. I couldn't stop staring. The graceful arch, the way her toes curled ever so slightly, the gentle rise and fall of her foot in my hand. The room around us seemed to melt away, leaving only the soft glow of the lamp and the intimate space between our skin. Every small touch was charged with meaning, every brush of her soul against my palm a whisper of something deeper. The silence stretched, thick with possibility and unspoken yearning. I felt myself leaning in closer, drawn not just by the physical sensation, but by the quiet vulnerability she allowed me to witness. Her foot was tired and worn, yet in this moment it became a bridge between us, fragile, tender, and alive. The room held its breath, every sound muted except the soft rhythm of her steady breathing. Our eyes met once again, but neither of us spoke. Words felt unnecessary, even intrusive. Instead, the language between us was spoken through touch. The delicate warmth of her skin beneath my fingers, the gentle flex of her toes, and the quiet pulse of her heart that seemed to echo through her foot pressed softly in my palm. I traced the faint lines along her arch, each movement slow, reverent, as if committing the moment to memory. The subtle roughness from the walk only made the softness beneath feel more real, more precious. Her foot shifted, a gentle pressure against me that spoke of trust and an unspoken invitation to stay present. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, the faint rustle of leaves blending with the quiet intimacy inside. The lamplight cast soft shadows that danced lightly over her skin, highlighting the curve of her heel and the delicate tendons flexing under the surface. I couldn't help but notice the way her toes curled slightly, each motion like a secret signal only I could read. The silence between us thickened, no longer empty but filled with meaning. An unspoken bond forged in this moment of quiet closeness. It wasn't just about her feet anymore. It was about the connection sparking between us, fragile but undeniable. I rested my forehead lightly against her ankle, the warmth of her skin grounding me. A soft sigh escaped her lips, barely audible, and I knew this moment was something we both felt but neither dared to name. The air seemed to shimmer around us, charged with a tenderness that lingered long after the last touch. She stood up slowly, breaking the delicate spell between us, and moved toward the small basin by the window. Steam curled softly into the air as she filled it with warm water, the gentle sound of the flowing liquid filling the quiet room. The amber glow of the lamp cast a golden haze over her bare feet as she stepped into the basin, the water enveloping them like a soothing embrace. I watched, captivated by the way the water caressed her skin, softening the dust and grit of the long walk. Tiny droplets clung to her toes and ankles, shimmering like fragile jewels in the soft light. She glanced back at me with a quiet smile, one that spoke of shared secrets and unspoken desires. Without a word, she motioned toward the basin, inviting me to join in the quiet ritual. My heart quickened at the thought, the intimacy of the moment sinking deeper into my bones. I knelt beside her, slipping my own hands into the warm water, feeling its comforting heat spread through my fingers as I reached out to cradle her foot once more. The contrast between the coolness of the room and the warmth of the water heightened every sensation. The softness of her skin, the subtle movements of her toes, the tender vulnerability she revealed in this quiet act. The water darkened slowly as I began to gently rub away the traces of the day, each stroke a silent promise, a gesture of care. Her foot relaxed beneath my touch, the tension melting away like the dust swirling in the warm water. It was more than a cleansing. It was a shared moment of trust and closeness, a slow unfolding of something tender and profound. My hands moved carefully, the warm water softening the rough edges of her tired feet as I began to wipe away the dust and grime. Each stroke was slow, deliberate, almost reverent, as if I was uncovering a hidden story etched into the delicate skin of her soles. The basin filled with murky water, evidence of the day's journey fading away with each gentle sweep. Her toes curled slightly beneath my touch, a subtle response that sent a quiet thrill through me. I couldn't stop noticing the graceful way her arch flexed, the way the light caught the slight sheen of moisture on her skin. The tension that had wrapped around the room seemed to loosen with every passing moment. There was no need for words. The silence between us was thick with meaning, a shared ritual of care and connection that felt both intimate and sacred. I traced the line where her heel met the soft curve of her ankle, careful not to rush, wanting to honor the vulnerability she offered so freely. Her foot rested lightly in my palms, warm and alive, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for this quiet trust. The scent of jasmine lingered faintly in the air, mixing with the fresh, clean smell of water, grounding me in the moment. As I continued, my fingers brushed against small scratches and worn patches, proof of her strength and endurance. The faintest shiver ran through her foot, and I caught the way her toes flexed again, just enough to remind me that beneath the softness was a fierce, unspoken resilience. This simple act, washing away the day's weariness, became something more, a bridge between us, delicate and charged with quiet longing. The slow dance of my fingers continued, the rhythm steady and soothing as I traced the delicate contours of her foot. Then, almost imperceptibly, her toes flexed beneath my touch, a subtle movement that sent a ripple through me. It was small, a simple gesture, but it held an unspoken invitation that I couldn't ignore. Her skin was soft where the water had settled, almost glowing in the gentle light, and the curve of her arch seemed to beckon me closer. I found myself unable to stop staring, mesmerized by the way her toes curled and released, a quiet language of longing and trust. The silence stretched between us, thick with a tension that was both fragile and electric. Her foot brushed lightly against my palm again, the contact lingering just long enough to make my breath catch. I felt the warmth radiate from her skin, a gentle heat that seemed to pulse in time with my own quickening heartbeat. For a moment, I forgot everything else, the world outside, the passing of time, and was lost in the simple, intimate act of tending to her. The quiet presence of her bare feet in my hands felt like a secret share between two souls, fragile yet profound. Her gaze held mine, calm and steady, as if daring me to acknowledge the stirrings beneath the surface. And in that charged stillness, I realized that this was only the beginning, the first tender unfolding of something neither of us could fully name, but both already deeply felt. My eyes traced the elegant line of her foot, lingering on the gentle curve of her arch. It was a graceful sweep, delicate yet strong, a perfect blend of softness and resilience that held my gaze captive. Every subtle ridge and valley seemed to tell a story, one of quiet endurance, hidden beauty, and a vulnerability she rarely showed. The warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips was a comforting contrast to the cool air around us. I felt my breath catch as my hand moved slowly along that curve, fingers following the natural rhythm, as if mapping an uncharted path. There was a hypnotic quality to the motion, the way her arch arched and relaxed beneath my touch, inviting me deeper into the moment. She shifted slightly, and I caught the faintest shiver that ran through her foot, an electric spark that sent a thrill racing up my arm. Her toes twitched gently, as if responding to a silent current flowing between us. The room felt smaller, the space between us charged with a quiet intensity that neither of us spoke aloud. The lamp's soft glow wrapped around her foot, highlighting the delicate bones and the smooth planes of skin, making every movement feel intimate, every touch sacred. The curve of her arch was more than just a physical shape. It was a symbol of the connection blossoming in the quiet night, fragile and profound. I hesitated, reluctant to break the spell, but the weight of that moment settled deep in my chest, a promise of something slowly unfolding, something I wanted to cherish and protect. As my hand lingered over the soft curve of her arch, our fingers brushed, tentative, accidental, and yet the contact felt electric, setting a gentle fire beneath my skin. Her toes twitched in response, curling ever so slightly, and I realized my palm had moved to cradle her heel, anchoring us in this quiet, charged moment. Our hands found each other, fingertips trembling as they tangled, hesitant yet eager. The warmth of her skin was a balm against the cool air, and the pulse of her heartbeat beneath her foot echoed in my veins. It was an intimate dance of touch and connection, a silent conversation spoken without words. The room felt suspended in time, shadows flickering softly on the walls as the muted hum of the evening wrapped around us. I could feel the subtle rise and fall of her breath, the way her foot shifted against mine as if seeking reassurance or offering it. Our fingers tightened slightly, and I caught the briefest flicker of a smile playing at the corner of her lips. The unspoken trust between us deepened, weaving a fragile bond that felt both thrilling and tender. Every brush, every touch became a promise, a delicate thread tying us closer together. In that stillness, I understood that this moment was more than just physical contact. It was a threshold, the first step into a space where vulnerability and desire intertwined quietly, without rush or demand, just the gentle unfolding of something rare and beautiful. The air between us thickened, charged with an electric tension that made every breath feel deeper, heavier. Neither of us moved. The world beyond the room seemed to fade, leaving only the soft warmth of her foot resting in my hand and the steady rhythm of our breathing. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, pulsing in time with my own racing heart. Her toes twitched again, subtle, deliberate, like a secret language only I could understand. The silence stretched, not empty but brimming with meaning, each second weighted with unspoken desires and fragile hope. My fingertips traced slow, reverent patterns along her arch, savoring the delicate softness beneath the roughness of the day's wear. The contrast was intoxicating, a perfect balance between strength and vulnerability that left me breathless. Her eyes held mine, steady and calm, but I sensed a flicker of something more, an invitation, a challenge, a shared surrender to the moment. I swallowed hard, feeling a knot of anticipation tighten in my chest as the quiet connection between us deepened. It was a pause, suspended between what had been and what might come, a fragile space where time seemed to hold its breath just for us. The warmth of her foot, the gentle pressure against my palm, and the silent exchange of glances wove together into a tapestry of intimacy that left me trembling with both longing and awe. In that breathless stillness, I knew this moment would linger long after the night had passed. Her lips curved into a soft, almost imperceptible smile, a silent acknowledgement that spoke volumes without a single word. It was a gentle, reassuring gesture, tender and warm, that seemed to ease the tension that had been building between us. In that smile, I found a quiet invitation to stay present, to explore this fragile connection without fear or hesitation. Her bare foot remained nestled in my hands, relaxed now, the subtle movements of her toes like a whispered conversation. The warmth radiating from her skin felt like a balm, soothing the restlessness within me. I met her gaze, and the softness in her eyes held 1,000 unspoken promises, trust, acceptance, and something deeper still. The lamp's glow bathed us in golden light, casting long, gentle shadows that danced quietly across the room. Outside, the distant murmur of rain created a soothing backdrop, wrapping us in a cocoon of calm intimacy. Time seemed to slow, every breath and heartbeat drawing us closer. That quiet smile was a bridge, a delicate thread connecting two souls and navigating the uncharted space between familiarity and something new. It spoke of patience and understanding, a promise that whatever this was becoming, it would unfold at its own gentle pace. I tightened my grip, just slightly, careful and reverent, and felt the subtle shiver that passed through her foot in response. In that moment, the silence between us was no longer empty. It was filled with possibility and quiet hope. I shifted my attention slowly, letting my gaze fall to her other foot, bare and marked by the day's journey, just like the first. It rested lightly on the floor, the soft curve of her heel exposed to the warm lamplight. The faint dust traced delicate patterns across the skin, a testament to the path she had walked, and something about that quiet resilience drew me in again. Gently, I reached out, lifting it into my hands with the same careful reverence. The softness beneath my fingertips was like a whisper, each contour telling a story I was eager to discover. Her toes twitched just slightly, mirroring the subtle life in the first foot, a silent rhythm that seemed to echo the connection growing between us. The contrast between the 2 feet was mesmerizing. One was nestled in my lap, warm and relaxed. The other held lightly, waiting for my touch. I felt the weight of the moment, the fragile intimacy that pulsed beneath the surface of this simple act. Her eyes met mine once more, calm and steady, as if silently encouraging me to continue. The quiet between us was thick, layered with trust and an unspoken invitation. My fingers traced the arch of this second foot, the gentle swell and dip of balm to the fatigue etched into her skin. The room around us faded further into the background, leaving only the soft glow of the lamp and the quiet murmur of rain outside. It was as if time itself slowed to honor the delicate unfolding of this ritual, one that was no longer just about cleaning. It was about connection, about discovery, about the tender dance of closeness that neither of us could deny. The soft glow from the lamp cast long shadows across the room, wrapping her feet in a gentle, golden embrace. The subtle interplay of light and shadow traced the contours of her skin, making every curve and line stand out with a quiet elegance. Her bare feet seemed almost ethereal, a delicate contrast to the weariness etched into their soles. As I continued to cradle her second foot, the flickering light danced across the fine dust still clinging to her toes and heels, highlighting the faint scratches and worn patches that told stories of the day's journey. The shadows lent a softness to the scene, a quiet intimacy that deepened with every passing moment. The rain outside whispered against the window pane, its steady rhythm a soothing backdrop to the charged stillness between us. The warmth of the room wrapped around her feet like a protective cloak, and I found myself mesmerized by the way the light caught the gentle swell of her arches and the delicate flecks of her toes. Her foot shifted slightly in my hands, the subtle motion sending a ripple through the silence. The shadows lengthened and softened as if the room itself was breathing with us, attuned to the fragile connection blossoming in the quiet glow. I felt an almost magnetic pull to lean closer, to explore every detail bathed in this tender light. Each flicker of shadow was a reminder of the unspoken emotions weaving between us, the trust, the vulnerability, and the slow awakening of something tender and profound. In that moment, surrounded by shadows and light, her feet were more than just tired and dusty. They were a gateway to a quiet world where closeness and longing coexisted in perfect harmony. The room seemed to hold its breath as I cradled her feet, the quiet intimacy between us thickening into something palpable. Every small movement felt amplified, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the soft brush of her toes against my palm, the warmth radiating from her skin. The air carried a heavy stillness, as if the world beyond these walls had faded into insignificance. Her eyes met mine with an intensity that sent a shiver racing through me. There was something in that gaze, steady, unflinching, that spoke of trust and vulnerability, a silent invitation to cross the fragile boundary between us. I felt the weight of the moment settle deep within my chest, a mix of anticipation and reverence that left me breathless. I traced the line where her heel met the soft curve of her ankle, careful and deliberate, as if trying to memorize every detail. The faint scent of jasmine lingered in the air, mingling with the earthy notes clinging to her skin, creating a heady atmosphere that wrapped around us like a warm embrace. Her foot pressed lightly against my hand, a quiet reassurance that this was more than a simple act of care. It was a connection delicate and profound. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken emotions and the thrill of shared discovery. In that suspended moment, time seemed to slow, each second stretched thin with possibility. The weight of everything unsaid settled between us, creating a space where trust blossomed and the promise of something deeper quietly unfurled. Her foot shifted slightly, and then, as if guided by some quiet intention, the sole brushed against my thigh, a fleeting contact so soft I almost thought it imagined. But the warmth of her skin pressed against mine was undeniable, a whisper of touch that lingered longer than mere accident should allow. The subtle pressure sent a shiver threading through me, a delicate flutter that danced beneath my ribs. I caught my breath, caught somewhere between surprise and a growing awareness of the tension weaving through the room. The silence around us deepened, filled with that unspoken question hanging just beneath the surface. Was this touch accidental, or something more deliberate? Her toes twitched against my leg, tiny movements that seemed to beckon, teasing the edges of a silent invitation. The curve of her foot, the way it nestled so close, made my gaze falter, drawn irresistibly to the smooth line where her skin met the fabric of my pants. The soft hum of the rain outside matched the quickening rhythm of my heartbeat. My hand instinctively moved to rest near hers, hovering, unsure if it should bridge the fragile gap or retreat. Yet the warmth of that fleeting brush stayed with me, an echo of a connection growing deeper in the stillness. For a moment, everything else dissolved, leaving just the quiet intimacy of that single touch, a touch that was as delicate as it was electrifying, marking the beginning of something neither of us dared to name aloud. The quiet between us thickened like a slow-burning flame, each moment stretching out with an intensity that was both thrilling and fragile. Her foot lingered against my thigh, the gentle warmth radiating through the fabric and into my skin, tethering me to the present in a way that felt both grounding and electrifying. I could feel the subtle rise and fall of her breath, the soft shifting of her body inching closer in the dim light. The room seemed smaller now, the space between us charged with an unspoken energy that pulsed beneath every glance and every barely there touch. My fingers trembled slightly as they hovered near her foot, torn between the urge to reach out and the hesitation that held me back. The silence wasn't empty. It was dense with possibility, thick with the weight of what could be, if only one of us dared to break it. Her toes flexed once again, a slow, deliberate motion that felt like a secret code meant just for me. My breath caught, and I realized how deeply I was drawn to every subtle movement. The curve of her arch, the softness of her skin, the way her foot pressed gently against my leg. The tension between us was a delicate dance, a slow unraveling of boundaries neither of us wanted to name yet. It was as if time itself had folded in on us, leaving only this moment suspended in the warm glow of the lamp and the quiet rhythm of the rain outside. In that unfolding tension, I felt both vulnerable and alive, caught in the fragile space between longing and restraint. She shifted closer, the subtle movement sending a ripple through the charged silence. Her foot, still bare and warm, found its way to rest gently against my leg. The contact was light, almost hesitant, but it anchored me in the moment with unexpected force. I felt the soft weight of her skin pressing through the fabric, a quiet reminder of the fragile closeness blooming between us. Her toes curled slightly, flexing with a slow, deliberate grace that sent a shiver up my spine. The warmth radiated from her foot like a secret language, silent, intimate, and undeniable. I caught my breath, feeling the steady rhythm of her heart through that gentle touch. Around us, the room seemed to fade into a soft haze, the lamplight casting golden hues over the subtle contours of her foot and the tense stillness in the air. The rain outside whispered against the window, a soothing soundtrack to the quiet intimacy unfolding. Our eyes met again, and in that gaze, I found an unspoken reassurance, an invitation to stay present in this delicate space without fear or hesitation. Her foot pressed just a little firmer against my leg, grounding me, drawing me deeper into the moment. It was a simple touch, but one heavy with meaning, a quiet testament to the trust and connection weaving itself between us in the soft shadows of the night. The room felt impossibly still, the soft glow of the lamp casting gentle pools of light around us. Her foot remained pressed lightly against my leg, a quiet anchor in the sea of unspoken emotions. Then, barely audible, her voice broke the silence, a whisper so soft it might have been the breeze outside. "Stay." That single word hung between us, fragile yet powerful, carrying more weight than anything spoken aloud. It was an invitation wrapped in vulnerability, a request cloaked in quiet trust. My heart pounded as I absorbed its meaning, feeling the gravity of that whispered plea settle deep within me. Her gaze searched mine, steady and unwavering, filled with a blend of hope and quiet longing. The room seemed to pulse with the intensity of the moment, each breath shared between us a thread weaving us closer together. I nodded slowly, unable to find the words, but knowing exactly what she meant. The silence returned, thick but comforting, wrapping around us like a warm blanket. Her toes curled gently, brushing against my skin in a delicate caress that sent a shiver racing down my spine. In that whispered word, everything shifted. The fragile space we inhabited became a sanctuary, a secret world held safe by our shared understanding and silent promises. Her breath caught softly, a gentle sigh that seemed to ripple through the quiet room like a whispered secret. It was barely audible, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken feelings: relief, longing, trust, all woven together in that single exhale. I felt the warmth of her foot against my leg deepen, a subtle pulse that matched the steady rhythm of her breathing. The softness of her skin beneath my fingers, still cradling her other foot, was a balm to the tension that had wrapped around my chest. The lamplight flickered gently, casting dancing shadows that played across her toes and the curve of her heel. Every small movement she made felt charged with meaning, as if each breath and sigh was part of an intimate conversation we shared in silence. Our eyes met once more, and in that gaze, I saw a quiet invitation, a tender openness that both frightened and comforted me. The moment stretched out, timeless and fragile, wrapped in the gentle glow of the room and the soothing murmur of rain outside. That soft sigh became a promise, a bridge between hesitation and surrender, carrying us deeper into the delicate space where trust and desire intertwined without words. In the quiet that settled between us, a bond grew, unseen yet undeniable. It wasn't spoken, nor did it need to be. It was there in the way her foot rested in my hands, warm and trusting, and in the way our eyes held each other with a depth that transcended words. The room around us faded further, leaving only the gentle glow of the lamp and the muted rhythm of rain tapping softly against the window. Time felt suspended, as if the universe had folded itself around this fragile moment of connection. Her skin was soft beneath my fingertips, and each subtle movement, a toe flexing, a slight shift, wove a quiet story of vulnerability and strength. I felt the steady beat of her heart echo through her foot, a silent pulse that resonated deeply within me. There was a weight to this bond, a delicate gravity pulling us closer in ways I hadn't anticipated. It was the kind of closeness that left you breathless and grounded all at once, a tether to something real and raw. I knew then that this moment wasn't just about feet or touch. It was about two souls quietly recognizing each other, bridging the gap between loneliness and belonging with a tender, unseen thread. My fingers traced the curve of her heel slowly, reverent and deliberate, as if trying to memorize every delicate contour before the moment slipped away. The warmth beneath my touch was soothing, soft skin that held both strength and vulnerability, a quiet testament to the day's journey and the trust she'd placed in me. Her foot relaxed further, resting easily in my palms, and I felt a shiver ripple through her as I lingered on the tender spot where the sole met the heel. Every small movement, every subtle flex of her toes, spoke of a deep, unspoken connection growing between us, fragile yet undeniable. The lamp's glow softened, casting a golden halo over her foot, emphasizing the gentle swell of muscle and bone beneath the skin. I hesitated briefly, reluctant to break the spell, but the quiet intimacy of that last touch anchored me in the moment. It wasn't just about cleaning away the dirt or easing the weariness. It was about the silent promise woven into the gentle care, a sacred ritual of closeness that transcended words. As my hand slowly withdrew, I felt the weight of everything unsaid, the trust, the longing, the fragile newness of what we discovered together. The silence that followed was heavy but warm, filled with the lingering presence of that tender last touch. She slowly pulled her feet from my hands, the cool air brushing against the freshly cleansed skin. The room felt different now, charged with a quiet stillness that neither of us wanted to break. Her gaze met mine, soft and searching, filled with a depth of feeling that words could never fully capture. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken promises and delicate questions hanging just beneath the surface. It was a fragile space, one that held both uncertainty and profound connection. Her feet, once dusty and tired, now seemed to glow faintly in the warm lamplight, a symbol of the tender bond we had woven through the night. I sat back slowly, the memory of her touch lingering on my skin like a gentle warmth that refused to fade. Every curve, every subtle movement, replayed in my mind, a quiet imprint etched deep within me. It wasn't just about the act of cleaning. It was about the closeness that had blossomed, a slow unfolding of trust and desire that neither of us expected but both welcomed. As she settled back into the couch, her feet resting comfortably beside me, I realized that this night had shifted everything. The boundaries between us had softened, replaced by a new understanding, a connection that would stay with me long after the last flicker of lamplight faded. The rain continued to whisper against the window, a gentle lullaby to close the night. And in that tender aftermath, I knew we had crossed a threshold into something fragile, beautiful, and quietly profound.